to the Security Squawk podcast, where we discuss the business of cybersecurity. Here are your co-hosts and cybersecurity experts, Brian Horning, Reginald Andre, and Randy Bryan.
That live studio audience follows you guys around everywhere.
Everywhere. Super excited to see us, man.
Yeah. So welcome to another week of updates around cybersecurity on the Security Squawk podcast. Andre and Randy are in Nashville together, hanging out, having a party. And I am still stuck here in Philly. Fortunately, I could not join them. So
we have a special guest just popped in.
Oh, Jesus.
Hi.
Yeah. Oh, the screen's going to break.
Oh, no, watch out.
There's one of our previous co-hosts, Ryan O'Hara, stopping in to say hello. He's clearly in Nashville with these two. How are you?
They're following me around. I'm good. We're having fun here talking about risk assessments.
Oh boy, nice. Yeah. Well, we're going to teach everybody why they shouldn't be doing certain things while they're traveling, so that they don't get hacked. That's what we're going to educate people on today. So we're going to let everybody know what Andre and Randy are doing in Nashville.
Make sure these guys aren't making mistakes.
All right. Yeah, no, man. We've been going through the list.
Yeah. Well, enjoy. Have fun, everybody.
Yep. Right. Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Good seeing them. So, so as I mentioned, the cat's out of the bag. Today, we're going to talk about staying safe from cyber attacks while traveling. It was kind of a coincidence that I came across an article that discussed this, but I've actually been talking to quite a few business leaders, CEOs about this kind of stuff. Like, they don't realize that, traveling, even if you're just not getting on a plane and traveling to another city, going to a client's facility or working somewhere else that's not your corporate network, this kind of all applies to that. But we're gonna talk about some things that these guys are doing while they're traveling, and some things that are mentioned in this article. To
traveling right now,
real world examples of how companies end up getting hacked because their employees travel somewhere, or their CEO or their executive travel somewhere and do something on the road that causes a problem, maybe instantaneously, maybe down the road. So we're going to educate you on the different ways that it can happen to you today. And then we'll talk about some other things, like the Philly Inquirer got cyber attacked, probably a ransomware attack, one of the largest newspapers in the country, along with some other cyber attacks that are happening. So it looks beautiful there, guys. Very nice day.
Yeah, first time here in Nashville, Music City. So pretty cool. Look forward to tonight. They got some good events for us.
Part of the reason why I'm not there, I've been there like 30 times.
The sad thing is we're having hail and tornadoes in Texas. Well, they did last night.
Wow.
And then we came over here to Nashville, and the lady who drove us over here from the airport, she said, yeah, that's forecasted.
Yeah.
Bad weather. So
wow.
Yeah, when it rains in Nashville. All right, so first on the list here, guys, in the article that I'm referencing for this talk is right off the bat, hotel Wi-Fi. Okay, right. So I guess first let's talk about why hotel Wi-Fi is bad. What can cyber criminals do with hotel Wi-Fi that somebody should be concerned with? And then what are some solutions around hotel, like if you have to use hotel Wi-Fi, is there something else you can do? Let's talk about those different options that are available to people. But hotel Wi-Fi, you guys are probably using hotel Wi-Fi right now, right?
We sure are.
Yeah, because you guys I only know this because they were all worried about the connection, which appears to be fine. And I would preface this with, not all Wi-Fis are created equal. I do think some hotels do a better job around securing the hotel guest Wi-Fi various ways than others do. So take that into consideration. But generally speaking, I tell people all the time, no Wi-Fi is really safe when you really consider, if you know what you're doing, you can do a what's known as a man in the middle type of attack. Even your home Wi-Fi is not safe. Plugging in with a cable is going to be the safest way, and that's just how it's going to be until somebody really figures out encryption at a high level. So
Well, also,
Go ahead.
we do everything. All of us on the show, we approach everything from a zero trust perspective, and which one of the like corollaries of zero trust is you basically assume that you're in the middle of everything that's bad. So going to a hotel, you should already have that attitude. You should already have the attitude that the Wi-Fi is botched, or has potential badness around so many things these things we're going to talk about. You just need to always have that attitude anyway. So this is really just kind of adding to what we say pretty much week in, week out on the show.
Yeah. So I guess let's, number one, don't take any, don't feel safe or, hey, I had to connect to the hotel Wi-Fi and put in a password or my room number and my last name. And none of that stuff is making it more secure. Number one. So don't get any false sense of security because there's some password or an advertised password. Like sometimes you'll walk in, there'll be signs that, the guest Wi-Fi password's this, or they'll give you a business card with the Wi-Fi password information on it. None of that is what we would consider secure in any way, shape, or form. But one of the things that they can definitely do is when you connect to a hotel Wi-Fi, they have the ability to install malicious software on your computer if they're doing things a certain way. So let's talk about that. Number one, like malicious software can be installed on computers and phones. Number one, how are they accomplishing this on a hotel Wi-Fi that I would think is secure?
Well, about 6 months ago, we did an assessment on a hotel, and the way it was set up is that it's called being on a flat network. So everything was the management, the guest Wi-Fi, even the credit card system. Everything was just on that one network. There was no segmentation or segregation between the network. So if that starts off by being set up wrong, then from there you can have these type of events happen on the computers and on your phones. Because if everything is segmented, even when it comes to a private Wi-Fi and a public Wi-Fi, but then there's also ways where you can make it where even on the guest Wi-Fi, your computer can't talk with another guest computer. So that's what should be done, but many times it's not being done, and that's how things spread.
Randy, any thoughts on that?
I mean, that's a pretty big deal. We keep seeing people that we know that keep walking by.
Yeah. So whenever you see our hands go up like that or something,
we're just waving at people.
It's our studio audience.
There you go. Yeah. They should sit here.
You had you mentioned taking over a hotel recently that had a flat network. We just had a client come to us yesterday. Not a client of ours, but they came to us because they were in the middle of a ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first things that we figured out is they got into the bad actors got into the router, changed the passwords, and probably uploaded some kind of malware or something like that.
Right. So, I mean, you are connecting. I mean, what people need to take a step back and realize is that you're connecting to a network, right? And you're not the only device on that network. And depending on how good the cyber criminal is and how poorly the network was set up by the people who set it up, really depends on, that's the answer on how easy or hard it's going to be for somebody to do this. But I can tell you that it's not that difficult for these cyber criminals to do this. And don't think about hotels in these situations. As Andre mentioned, condos where you live in Florida, right? And condos are all over the state of Florida. big condo complexes that have shared internet or supplied internet as part of the rent or as part of the lease. These can all be compromised, right? So it's not just hotel, Wi-Fi's that we're discussing here. It could be, it could be your part-time home that you go to in Florida that is, compromised in some way, shape, or form. And quite frankly, I would think that potentially those could be even higher or targeted at a higher rate than hotels, because hotels, people come and go, and unless a cyber criminal has a home or an office or a building near that hotel where they can maintain persistent access, I think you have a higher chance of being hacked at like a condo complex where somebody could be living in that condo complex knowing that renters or snowbirds come in and out of there. And they could be targeted in these situations by people who are just waiting for someone to connect to their device. And that takes us into the next way people can be hacked, which is these man in the middle type of attacks that are set up.
Right.
Using, you can use a Pineapple, it's called. You can use Kali Linux or other versions of Linux that support different hacking tools. And you can literally create replicated networks. So, just like going into a Starbucks, if you see Starbucks Wi-Fi, a hacker can go in and replicate that radio and
Yep.
basically steal everything that's being sent over that network. And you don't notice anything's going on. Your connection's fine. You still connect out to the internet. You put in the same username and password that was provided to you by the hotel, by Starbucks, by whoever. Everything looks normal, but your traffic's being intercepted in the middle. And that's really probably the most common way that hackers are able to achieve this. And this happens in hotels. It happens in airports. It happens anywhere where people are just randomly connecting to internet to get on the internet. And this is probably one of the biggest points we're going to make today is like, you really got to be careful about this stuff. And, I don't know if you guys have anything to add to what I said there about these man in the middle things with Wi-Fi, but they are legit and they happen way more frequently than people probably realize.
Well, and so basically what happens is your basically all your traffic, if you will, is sent encrypted where nothing can really see it.
No, it depends. Unless you put something in place to encrypt it.
That's what
Right.
we're talking about, man in the middle. So
right, but not all of it is encrypted.
Well, most of it is though these days. I mean, literally most of it is, and we can say okay,
but it can be unencrypted.
Right, but we're kind of missing the point. What I'm saying is though, most of your traffic is going to be encrypted, and if with a man in the middle attack, they can decrypt your traffic,
right?
Because every hop has to be able to handle that traffic. And so a man in the middle, basically it means that they're stepping in the middle and they're able to decrypt your traffic. So like the customer that came to us yesterday, the fact that their router was hacked probably enabled the bad guys to get all of their passwords to all of their internet accounts. Because if they're going over that Wi-Fi and they've got the man in the middle there, that's basically what I was trying to say.
Yeah, no, you got it.
But yeah, many times the victims will never know where it happened. They're just like you said, they're at a hotel, they're at a condo, and they don't know. And I would say that's like for a criminal, that's perfect because they can be sitting there for a couple of weeks and you never have anybody investigating them or coming after them because nobody even knows that they're doing it.
Yeah, and like Randy said, you would think that encryption would help, but it doesn't. There's tools that decrypt these packets, and if they're successful at decrypting the packets, they will see the information in plain text. They will get your passwords. They will get tokens to your M365, so they can log in as you without your username and password. So what are some things that people can do? We kind of mentioned it a little bit, obviously, with encrypting it themselves. You can use a VPN tool. the ones you can buy. I'm not going to recommend any of them on here because I, quite frankly, I'd say set up your own, or learn how to set up your own, or use your corporate one before you do this. But what are some other things people can do while they're on travel, to protect themselves from these types of things? Like, I personally, I'll just tell you what I do. I don't connect to hotel Wi-Fi's. I take a hotspot with me, not my phone, but a dedicated hotspot, and I only connect my devices to those.
Yeah, so for me, I do my phone. But speaking of that, I only have one bar here in Nashville, so that backfires sometimes.
Yeah,
It does.
really can. Apparently, the internet sucks down here.
Yeah.
It does. I was able to use my, last time I was in Nashville, I was able to use my hotspot in the hotel. And it's funny because I have AT&T, and I'm literally looking at the AT&T building in Nashville from my hotel room, and my service it wasn't that great, but it didn't hamper me, but it wasn't great. So honestly, like, what would you guys do in that case? If your internet really sucked, what would you do?
Well, you want to verify with the place that you're going to be using the Wi-Fi that it is the correct Wi-Fi. As we talked about, sometimes they can add a hacker can add an extra letter or word or whatever.
Right.
So that, for me, that's what I would do. I was just verify. Now I have protections on my computer, so I'm good.
Yes.
But I'm just talking about as far as that aspect. So go ahead. You can expand on that.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just I wowed because we could literally make one right now. Because it says the Margaritaville is the hotel, Margaritaville _ and then it's all caps guest.
Right.
We could put Margaritaville _ CONF, which stands for conference area.
Right.
And I guarantee you we'd have 50 people attached to it.
Yeah, that would have been a good thing. We should have brought our Belkin router and tried it.
Yeah, you could definitely do that. That's one way to do it. Or you can do a man in the middle and just replicate that same guest, Margaritaville _ guest, and pass that traffic back to the actual router after it goes through yours, and you collect all the information. So that's Wi-Fi. I personally don't ever connect to Wi-Fi unless I've always said it. I've said it a million times. Don't connect to Wi-Fi unless you've constructed the network and that Wi-Fi network is secure. Because otherwise you don't know what you're stepping into. Are there any devices or mobile data plans you would all recommend for personal Wi-Fi hotspots? I use AT&T. That's what I recommend. I wouldn't say I like AT&T cybersecurity. They're not I guess I wouldn't recommend T-Mobile. That's because of the amount of hacks, and we've talked about that on this channel. So, Randy, any thoughts on Wi-Fi there for our hotspots for Steve? He wants to know what he should be traveling with.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a great one. So up until the last 6 months, I would have probably said T-Mobile, because T-Mobile has some great hotspot plans and some great internet plans and all that jazz. But now they keep getting hacked. So I'm not quite sure right there, man, because wow.
You use T-Mobile still, don't you?
Hey, it's good. Well, it has a great family plan.
Yeah. At this point, all my stuff's already was leaked.
The only thing I would say, Steven, is do your shopping, shop around, figure out what's best for you. And I would highly recommend an unlimited plan. Going on a plan that has caps, especially when you're traveling. Like, I know when I use my laptop on my hotspot, I easily get to 10 gigs by the time I get home. Easily. So, just keep that in mind. So that's it. Wi-Fi. We'll move on from that. And this big one, this actually came out at the FBI a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, put out a big bulletin along with the FTC about not using public Wi-Fi charging stations and ports and things like that. That's saying that cyber criminals were using those to spread malware and steal information from people's phones. And one of the things that this article points out is to use a socket instead of a USB charger. Some hotels install USB charging ports in hotel rooms. This is a tempting way to charge a device, especially if the traveler is coming from a location with a different kind of plug. However, it may introduce the risk of becoming a victim of cyber criminals. Hackers can modify public charging cables to install malware on phones, perform an attack called juice jacking. And this type of attack allows hackers to steal users' passwords, credit card information, address, names, and other data. So what are you guys' thoughts on this? I always say that the FBI doesn't come out with these things because they feel like, getting a news or, going viral on Twitter or something like that. Like, they release this stuff because they're actively seeing it being exploited by cyber criminals in the wild at a very high rate, to where they feel like, okay, we need to, put out a bulletin or a release to the public. How common do you think this is?
Again, if FBI wouldn't have done it, and it's again one of those crimes where, like, there's one thing where if you get phished and then from there, you have a ransomware attack, you know it's happening to you. But this is one of those crimes that you just don't know it happened to you until maybe later on when you're getting credit card charges and fraud and stuff like that. So as you said, now to tie into traveling, I guess, and this isn't in the article, but we should also mention, as you're traveling, if you're going to a conference, don't pick up those little USB dongles that the vendors and stuff like that like to give out for free.
So those might be good. You're right, but that would be another way. You go to a conference, and we've talked about this before. Get you a little USB right on there, vacation pics for your eyes only, or something like that. Just drop them every 20 feet. I guarantee you, people are going to plug them in, and you'll. We shouldn't even be sharing that live, giving somebody an idea. So, but as far as this goes, this has actually been a threat. I can remember at least 10 years ago talking about this particular threat. And for pretty much most of that time, and probably even longer, for most of that time, there's been the ability, they call them USB condoms, which is a little weird, but that's what they call them. And you can actually,
at least in Texas, that's what they call them.
Yeah. I actually have some. And you can actually use that when you plug into one of these ports, and it blocks all connections between if it was a juice jacked port and your device. And this is good that we're bringing this up though, Brian, because I don't think most people think about this.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just checked in a little while ago, and everywhere there's an electrical outlet. In my hotel room, right above it, there is a USB port. And, some bloke could just be visiting and take that apart and put a juice jacker in there. And, it would be random drive-by, but, if you're at the right hotel, like, you could target people that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, 100%. And so I feel like I made a YouTube video on this, but I might be wrong. I don't remember when I talked about this, but I know we recommended a lot of the same things that were being recommended in the article. And one of the things is bring a charging bank, right? That's one of the things you can do. Or plug into a charging brick that plugs into an actual outlet, right? So the concern is you're plugging a cable into a USB port and you don't know what's behind that USB port. And there could be a microchip or anything stealing data, or there could be some device installed behind that socket that's, downloading malware or uploading malware into your phone. And the other thing, you can't do that if you're plugging it into an electrical outlet, and you also need to be wary of those stations that have like the cubby holes and the wires sticking out. So anything else that comes to mind with you guys? I know they also make like cables that don't transmit data. They only do power. That's another thing that you can do. You can carry a cable around that only charges. It doesn't allow data to be transferred. But I think in most phones today, when you plug in a cable and it's recognized that that device on the other end can transfer data, you get an alert on your phone that says, do you want to allow data transfer or just charging only? I think it's common sense, but common sense isn't always common to hit charging only. Don't allow it to have full access to your phone if you happen to plug it into one of those USB plugs.
It's a good point. So is that on the iPhone? So I know that's on Android. I use Android. Are you an Android or iPhone person?
I'm Android.
And are you iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Does iPhone have that same warning?
We were the first ones to come out with it.
No, you aren't. I promise.
Yeah.
We're gonna leave that out of the show so we can stay friendly, right?
Yeah.
But for real, do they give that warning?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just on the Android. So it was first out on the iPhone.
Yeah, we're all about security,
So then, as we're moving along here, and that's just bring your own charge. Be responsible for your own charging. Don't rely on charging ports are a vulnerability, and just be smart about it. Use plugs or bring your own charging bank. I know they can be heavy at times and a pain in the butt to travel with. I don't travel with them because I hate them. But charging only cables are a better option in my opinion. Make sure you grab one of those. They're easy to buy on Amazon. This was an interesting one, and quite frankly, it's one I never thought about. I would have never thought about this one. I'm going to bring it up and let you guys. But before we do, Austin Bryan. I don't know if he's related to you or not, Randy.
He actually is.
Okay. He said, "Great point, Andre. Free swag electronics need to be burned. Also, everyone needs to buy power-only USB cables for charging." There's my man. Or what Randy referred to. Would turning off NFC for a phone make public wireless charging safe?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But I would say turn off your NFC whenever you're at a conference and your Bluetooth.
I would turn off your NFC until you need to use it to pay for something or whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? I know that's inconvenient, but like on my Android, I have it as one of the little things. I just slide down and click it on and it's on. And then I turn it off when I don't need it. So here we go. TVs in hotel rooms. Okay. So their recommendation is that you unplug the TV. Thoughts on that, guys? You unplugging your TVs when you go in your hotel room? Is this a little bit of paranoia here?
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
That's a little too much. I'm not doing that. I'm not using my TV. I'm not unplugging it.
That's it. It's a good point though, because somebody could have been in the room. I mean, it is over paranoid on many levels. So I agree with you, and I know you both. I think we all agree on that. It is over paranoia, but because you would have to have had a criminal come into that hotel.
Not necessarily, because I say it all the time on this, and I say it all, like TVs are a massive vulnerability because they only get updates for about 2 years, and then the manufacturer stops supporting them. So if that hotel, if that hotel is not updating their TVs, it's potential that, depending on how the network's set up, a lot of things have to go right for the cyber criminal, but they could basically use the vulnerabilities in these TVs and hack them and get access to them through the network. I mean, it's not a far-fetched situation, especially probably in a lower-end hotel where they don't update the TVs as much. I mean, most of the hotels I've been staying at lately, the TVs seem nicer than the ones I have in my house. So they seem to kind of, like the last hotel I stayed in, the hotels had 85-inch TVs, so they had to be, I would think, fairly new. But that's not all hotels, right? So this goes on to say that depending on the aim of the intruder, a hacked smart TV could be used for a number of cyber crimes, from cyber stalking travelers with built-in microphones or cameras to stealing personal credentials used to log into apps on smart TV and selling them on the dark web. Right? So what they're saying here is you could come to a hotel room, maybe they have like YouTube TV and you have an account or an ESPN Plus account, and you log into that service, and they're saying if they have access or enough control of this TV, they could steal that username and password and then turn around and go sell it on the dark web, which people are paying, pretty decent money to have access to active YouTube TV accounts and basically pay, $20 to have access to your YouTube TV that you're paying close to $100 a month for.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess I would consider this a minimal, because if you were like really trying to go after somebody, like I could see that this being a higher thing, but for the average traveler where the person's not known, and there a lot of things have to go right here for you to be successful as a cyber criminal. And I think, again, going back to maybe my condo example from earlier, like condos where people are in one spot for a longer period of time than maybe a hotel, something like this would probably be maybe a little bit more of a concern. But they're recommending to unplug the smart TV from the power source when it's not being used, and covering up any web cameras, and avoid logging into any of your personal apps with your credentials to mitigate any risk, which I think is good advice. I don't think I'll be unplugging my TV, but I'm definitely not going to be using the TV to access things like YouTube TV and stuff like that. That's why I bring my iPad with me and I just use that.
Pretty much every time we ever go on vacation, like one of our favorite places is the beach, and we'll go stay in a condo down on the beach or whatever, and all the accounts will be logged in on the smart TV. Someone else's Netflix, someone else's Prime, someone else's Hulu. So that's a pretty good point. Don't be logging in on that. So anyway.
Yeah, and the hotels that we don't deal with the audio visual, but I can confirm that there is no procedure at the moment for anybody to go in and wipe it, reset it, log everybody off.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the next thing the article says is to disable Wi-Fi auto connections, which I think just disabling that in general is a really good idea. A lot of different things can happen. I remember getting an email last week from somebody who was all freaked out because their phone was connected to a different Wi-Fi network than their normal one at their home. And they were like, what is it? What did I connect to? Why was my phone connected to it? They were panicking. And I guess it is cause for concern. And there's a lot of different things that can happen, to make that happen for somebody. But yeah, you really don't want your devices being able to connect to networks that just pop up all over the place. You want to, throw red meat to a cyber criminal. Just have your devices automatically connect to any Wi-Fi network that they flag on. You know what I mean? So what are some of the risks of having your devices automatically connecting to Wi-Fi, other than the obvious of like you could just connect to a public Wi-Fi network that's compromised, and now you could be compromised? So
yeah, so if you just turn on your Wi-Fi and just drive around, so back in like 15 years ago, we called that war driving, driving around and just scanning for Wi-Fi networks, because there weren't that many back in the day, right? But anyway, if you do that, there's like still to this day, there's Wi-Fi's all over the place that are called like Linksys, Linksys, and they're open. So if you have an automatic connection, let's say you're playing, chess on some app on your phone or on your, on your computer, but you have that open, you have that automatic Wi-Fi connection turned on, and you've been on Linksys before. Well, your computer's just gonna connect to it. So you definitely don't want to do that. And then also you could have a case of somebody cloning a connection, right, which you would think that a computer wouldn't. If I cloned a connection, you'd think my computer wouldn't automatically connect, because it should be able to tell by MAC address, that, hey, this is a cloned connection. But that would be a couple possibilities right there that you'd want to, try to avoid.
Yeah, just telling your devices like don't connect to Wi-Fi networks automatically is a great idea, especially if they're not password protected, especially if they're open in public.
Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and then the other thing you can do is make sure, like, especially at cell phones, it's a pretty easy setting, especially if you have a security VPN product installed. where you can just tell in the settings of that VPN product,
Mhm.
if my device for some reason connects to a open Wi-Fi or public
Trusted.
Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
then automatically turn the VPN
Right.
on. So that's just I would say a fail-safe protection, but you really want to make sure that that device doesn't connect to those things at all.
So I'm a MacBook user. So what I'm fixing to say is not meant to be an attack on MacBooks or a dig on the earlier thing we mentioned. But two things. One, when the original iPhone came out, it automatically connected to open networks. And it was literally you can Google this, like entire college networks were going down because all of a sudden all these devices were connecting to the open networks that were on there. I don't think that's still a thing.
No.
But also, until at least 5 years ago, I don't know if this is still true now, but at least until 5 years ago, that was one of the ways that Find My Mac actually, if your Mac was lost, would be that it would auto connect to open Wi-Fi. So if a crook took it down to a coffee shop or something like that, it would automatically connect, and that way you could find where it was. I don't know if they've turned that off since then, but that's something to think about and to check into, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. So last thing we're going to talk about around being safe while traveling is fishing. And how can travelers, and why should travelers be concerned with fishing? I mean, people should be concerned with fishing just in general, but
What kind of fish are we talking about? Because we are talking about vacations.
What's that?
Sorry. I said,
Yeah,
what
Joe.
kind of fishing are we talking about? Because we are talking about being on vacation.
So it's interesting to me because I never thought about this, but the article points out this group, the cyber attack group who I've never heard of, called Dark Hotel. And they are basically were known to compromise the Wi-Fi of luxury hotels. And then they would combine that with spear phishing, dangerous malware, and botnet automation designed to capture confidential data. So the group knew their target. They knew that they wanted to go after high-profile individuals, and they know that these people aren't staying at a Red Roof Inn, right? So they targeted high-end hotels, like the one Randy and Andre are probably staying at.
No, I'm across the street.
So Andre's at the Four Seasons.
I'm at the Three Seasons.
But they know where, like, that's pretty clever to me that they are like, okay, we're just going to target this hotel chain because we know that the people we really want to go after are living or renting, these hotel rooms. And they went after high value targets, senior level executives, politicians, representatives from military related organizations, and pharmaceutical company representatives. And they would craft phishing emails that are tailored to each target that are highly convincing. This probably allowed them to get that payload on the system, and the access that they had, on the network allowed them to do even more, which is wild. Now, I'm going to ask you guys, does the average person at a regular hotel need to be concerned about this? Because I think so. Like, it's, this can be done very easily to target a Marriott, just like they probably targeted whatever high-end hotel this was.
I would even say, like, even if you're going on vacation and you go on Facebook and you're like, hey, going on a 35-year anniversary, a cruise or whatever, and you have the background Carnival cruise, and now hacker goes and says, okay, I'm going to try to see if I can phish this person or message them or something and see if they can click on a link. This is Carnival Cruise, and we need you to click on this in order for your onboarding to happen.
I mean, you can, for most organizations, you can do a very simple search and find out names of CEOs and their email addresses and probably phone numbers and stuff like that. You're right. So that could give a little extra push for a targeted phishing attack.
Cool. So we're 38 minutes in, guys. We talked for 40 minutes here. I don't know if you guys want to touch on any other things we kind of had on the list. I'm good. So I don't need to talk about the Philly Inquirer being hacked. If you care about that, you can go look it up or watch my YouTube video that I'm probably going to get out in a day or two about it. You guys want to talk about any of these cyber attacks on our list, or good to go?
Yep. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Cool. Yeah, I think so too. It was a good show.
Yep.
Good tips. Stay safe while you're traveling. Randy, make sure you go to your room and unplug your TV immediately.
I'm gonna go cut the cord.
And
That'll learn.
get the laptop off the hotel Wi-Fi.
Right.
No, but I appreciate your input. And remember, if you guys leave any comments or questions down below throughout the week, we will respond to them. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, otherwise, if you're downloading us through a podcast, we appreciate your support. If you could leave us a review or rate us, it greatly helps other people find our content. Remember, like us and share us on social media, and we will see you guys back in our little boxes next week.
Yes, sir.
All right.
You're welcome, Nancy. Have a good one.